we talked about classification, which is one of the major pillars of the customs broker exam. Another, I wouldn't say so much as a pillar, but a major component, and often regarded as very difficult by many, is the appraisement of merchandise. And by appraisement of merchandise, we're talking about the value which we need to declare to customs. So here is 7501 for an entry summary, and you need to provide line items of the things that you bring in, right? And one of the boxes, usually toward the right, it asks you how much money do you are you really bringing in? And in the world of customs broker exam, it is really not limited to the invoice value, because the invoice value and whatever you declare in this box varies depending on the circumstances. And customs examiners go to great lengths to make sure that those circumstances are they have great deal of variation and great deal of adjustment. So you may get a situation where you are being asked to, you are given the invoice value, which is invoice value X, but then you are given a bunch of other things. So you are given the freight charges, you are given the insurance charges, you are given the various subsidies, you can be given intellectual property rights such as royalty, you can be given support, you can be even the fluctuation in price, such as the exchange rate, you can be given different currency. So all these situations you must be mindful of, because each situation has its own rule. And you will need to, so in order to fill in that box correctly, it requires a great deal of knowledge, which usually is termed as an appraisement of merchandise. It is not always the case where you have country A and country B involved, where United States being country A and the exporting country being country B. Usually you have a mix, especially in today's globalized world, where you have various factors of production located all throughout. So usually you have one country responsible for one thing, another country responsible for another thing, a third country will have, like, let's say, sales office responsible for yet another thing. So you have a mix. So how do you determine what country, what's the country of origin or what's the country of export? Here being the country of export. So continuing with the appraisement of merchandise, a huge topic, need not repeat it, always shows up on the exam. Takes a lot of time and involves calculation, so it may be a good idea to bring a little pocket calculator to the exam site, because although a lot of those types of problems you can do in your head, your head will be busy with other things such as time management, keeping track of questions that you need to revisit, etc., etc. So this may be a good idea to bring to the site. So what we discovered so far is we discovered that when you try to put a number on a merchandise, whether it being a laser point pen, whether it is a calculator or anything else, there are various ways to appraise the merchandise depending on circumstances. And the basic rule of thumb is there is a scale. There is a scale from 1 to 5, and it starts with the transaction value, then you go down to the transaction value of similar or identical merchandise, then you go to the deductive, computed, and other fallback value. Let's say we get something from Zurich in Switzerland. And we need to get it to Rotterdam, Netherlands, before the shipment goes to the United States. Well, so here's the United States. there. But think, so we know that once it gets on Rotterdam and goes on a ship to the United States, this part of the transportation is not dutiable, the Atlantic part. What about this part though? This is where this is the foreign inland freight portion we're talking about. From Switzerland to the seaport of Rotterdam, so it goes on a ship and goes through the English Channel all the way to the United States. Who pays for this portion? So this is a primary question that we're concerned with. Okay, so last time we talked about various valuation strategies, various valuation methodologies, and major thing that we established was there is a structure to the appraisement of merchandise. You start with the transaction value, then you go to the transaction value of the similar or the same identical merchandise. Then you go to the deductive value or computed value. You have a choice. And then you go to what's called a fallback value, which is basically the provision which says just approximate to the best of your abilities. So as we talked about the transaction value, we found out that a lot of things which comprise the transaction value may or may not be added. And of course, to go into the details, we kind of drew this pattern of things that can be a part of the transaction value. So for example, we have an assist. Assist is a thing, such as a tool or a mold, which is provided by the importer to the exporter, by the buyer to the seller, free of charge or at a reduced cost.